up to the 30, the 20, 10, 5, Torrey Horton back to the end zone.
48-yard play. Guess who? Body up the middle, making another move to the outside. 15, 10, end zone again.
Keeps it. Nice move by Brown. He's got space. He's got 6. 35-yard touchdown for Byron Brown. A record-setting night for the South Florida quarterback.
Down so far, a little bit of a high snap. Genty right up the middle. Genty has room. Ashton Genty, give him 6.
Second and long. Lagar tries to pin it in. Rose, it does. Rose stays up. The Suns offense 4-3 wheels. Incredible effort for Rose.
The G5 Hive. All G5, all the time.
Hello and welcome to the G5 Hive Live. We are back, baby, and we are excited to bring you the G5 college football coverage that you love each and every week. I am Luke Probasco. I am joined by my co-host this way on the screen there, Justice. There is so much to be excited about. The 2024 spring season is upon us.
It absolutely is, man. It's exciting times. Like Hollywood said, let's go, baby, let's go. We just wrapped up an extremely successful first season of our Worker Bee series, where we deep dove into all 64 G5 college football teams with the folks that know the teams the best to get you all the information that you need to know and more. We also did a lot of player interviews. If you haven't checked those out, go to our YouTube page. We've got a playlist with every single Worker Bee series in there, so all 64 G5 teams. And we also got a playlist with all of our player interviews. I think we did around a dozen or so, and we might still have some more coming up here in the next few weeks as well. So look forward to that. Welcome, Billy. Great to see you, sir. Great to see you. Great to have you.
Billy, it's been a while. Well, I'll go ahead, Justice.
No, so Luke recently, I guess, was it last weekend? Luke was in Canton, Ohio, attending the FF Fantasy Football Expo. So how did that go, Luke? What'd you learn?
Well, I learned that college fantasy football is still very, very small in the I don't know if I learned it. I kind of knew it, but I don't know. The amount of people that weren't aware of college, I don't know. It was just a different breed of a different animal over there. It was a lot of NFL talk, a lot of and it was just kind of interesting to listen to people talk. Went to a couple different forums. They're like, I've got pick 205 in my rookie drafts. Who do you think I should be targeting? And it's you pay enough attention to these college teams. It's I could give you so many names to. It's just people just not knowing and just scratching the surface was interesting. Got to meet a lot. What I took away from it mostly was getting to see people in person. Got to meet a lot of people. I'm not going to name all the names because I'm going to forget somebody. But Justice, we've never met in person. I know what you look like from roughly the shoulders on up. And I will tell you that everybody that I met, I was like, wow, you're a lot bigger than I thought. It didn't matter if they were really, really short or really, really tall. Everyone's like, no, I just know what people look like from the shoulders on up. So I think that was the best part, was just meeting people face to face. There's something, about getting to hang out with somebody all weekend, getting to know them. Because, we just do this for an hour. So people, they know us. And it's oh, is that how they are in real life? Are they just putting on a bit? And then you get to talk to them and get to figure out kind of who they are as a person. Billy, yes, I did make it to the Hall of Fame. I was in the Hall of Fame for, I think, about 7 hours, maybe 6 hours. And I did not see, I saw everything, but I didn't get to deep dive into it. The two craziest things I saw in the Hall of Fame, I'm going to say 3. 1, Gronk's COVID tracker. That was in the Hall of Fame. He most famously said he didn't use it or whatnot during their Super Bowl. 2, was Andy Reid's visor, COVID visor, face mask type thing that he would wear. And then why am I blanking on his name? The quarterback for the Stallions, USFL,
AJ Martinez,
Nebraska. Yeah, Martinez. Heisman Martinez. I'm here in Iowa. I hear all these things about the Cornhusker and how AJ Martinez is the greatest thing on earth. And, come to find out, he's got his USFL jerseys in the Hall of Fame. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, of course he figures it out. So those are kind of like the weirdest things. I did see a Tim Tebow jersey. I was like, oh, that's weird. Why is that in there? And I can't remember if it was for the longest or the shortest overtime victory ever with like 13 seconds, or if it was the playoff victory. Can't remember which one, but either way, that was kind of interesting. So FF Expo was great. Mainly just meeting people and getting to just network with them, learning more about that, and how can we get more people interested. Here we are, deep diving into the G5 college football landscapes. We've been growing like crazy with followers on X, YouTube subscribers. Speaking of which, if you are watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. And if you're watching us on X, please give a follow and like and retweet. And if you're listening to us in podcast form, please rate and review. Justice, they've heard enough about my fantasy football expo. We got week 0 coming up. What does the Swarm need to know? What are our news and notes?
So, it's been a long time since we've gone live. I don't know. Last time was probably like March, April. I don't know, somewhere around there. So a lot's happened. A lot's happened since then.
And capture it all right here. Just capture it all.
Well, we didn't go back that far. But I did try to capture some of the big stuff that's happened more recently in the last few weeks. We'll start off at UNLV. The quarterback situation there with it's still a battle between Haj Malik Williams and Matt Saluka. Haj Malik Williams is the quarterback transfer coming over from Campbell. He was there for the spring. He got reps with the team in spring practice. Matt Saluka is the transfer from Holy Cross. He was not there in the spring. He did not arrive until the summer. So most of his reps have come in and during fall camp. And a lot of folks thought that this was just Matt Saluka's job, and that's not the case. It's definitely a really tight battle between Saluka and Haj Malik Williams. And in fact, information just released today that Haj Malik Williams is it's got the edge. I read some things. Might have been like a week or two ago now, but it's in fall camp on Saluka, and it kind of said like what Saluka does is he reads his first read. His first read ain't there. That guy's not open. He takes off running. And so that kind of, I don't know, for me personally, that kind of like told me, well, maybe he's not going to be the guy. Didn't come in until the fall. And maybe that's just because he wasn't as familiar with the offense. I don't really know. I just remember seeing that comment from a beat reporter. But nonetheless, it's a tight battle here between Haj Malik Williams and Matt Saluka. What do you think, Luke?
I think the edge goes to Haj Malik Williams. When we did our Worker Bee series, it was kind of alluded to that like he kind of performed maybe better than they thought in the spring and started winning over some guys there in the locker room. And kind of once you win over a locker room and you're playing well, it's kind of hard to go against the locker room, even though like maybe it makes sense to do. Like, I don't know, maybe you're a 5-star quarterback and you go to a G5 school and it makes sense. And then maybe you don't get it. I don't know of any of those circumstances off the top of my head, but it sounds like Haj Malik Williams, I think might get that start.
Yeah, I think if I had to give the nod, I think he is. And and it could be a situation where there could be a short leash if they're both really competent guys. Maybe there'll be a short leash, but Haj Malik Williams definitely has the edge right now. Cameron, thanks, man. Thanks for subscribing. Hope we can bring you all the G5 college information that you're after. And if there's anything you want to see or that we don't talk about, just let us know for future shows, man. All right. On to Hawaii. And Hawaii plays week 0, but back in June, Star receiver Stephen McBride was arrested on June 21st for a domestic abuse situation. He was originally charged with a felony that was later dropped to a misdemeanor. At that time, he was suspended indefinitely from the team. He was later reinstated to the team on August 13th. And even though he's back with the team and practicing, they revealed when he got reinstated, they revealed that he's got an eligibility issue. And they're working upon that eligibility issue. The only thing they've really said about it is that it's not related to this other incident. And, no idea if he's going to gain eligibility back, if he resolves this issue, or when that's going to happen. And if that does happen, is he going to be suspended for a few games because of the abuse incident? Like, none of those details have come out. The only really thing to add is their week 0 depth chart came out today, just a couple hours ago, and McBride is nowhere on that depth chart, which shouldn't surprise anyone, right? Because they told you when he was reinstated that he has an eligibility issue and he has to get that resolved first. And there's been no updates on McBride since then. So yeah, Stephen McBride out. So it's going to be interesting to see, and we'll talk about this in our week 0 preview, kind of see who gets that start in his place.
And I'm just working under the operation and belief that we will not see Stephen McBride this year. And if we do, I mean, great. Obviously, the Rainbow Warriors want him back. He was great for this team last year. We saw why am I blanking on the other kid that was a freshman last year? Yeah, Ashlock. You saw him break onto the scene last year. Obviously, Hawaii is better with Stephen McBride, but obviously we just got to see how things go. But I would work under the operations that we probably just won't see Stephen McBride this year.
All right, staying in the Mountain West and going over to San Jose State, that quarterback room is really a mess, man. It's at the end of spring, it was a 2-man race between Walker Eggett and Emmett Brown. Emmett Brown, a transfer from Washington State, and then in the fall, Xavier Ward joined that club, and it's now a 3-man race. Xavier Ward's made several stops across a couple different teams. I believe he was most recently also at Washington State. He never really did anything for any of his previous colleges, and again, he joined in the fall, so he's kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit. But the fact that Xavier Ward has come in and made this a 3-man race just tells me, like, it's probably not a great situation, right? Because both Walker Eggett, Emmett Brown were there in the spring. They had all spring, all summer to kind of get down this Craig Stutzman spread and shred offense, and the fact that someone comes in the fall and like is in a legit race to win the job, that just makes, in considering Ward, we've never really seen Ward do much to this point, so it doesn't make me feel great about him. It just makes me feel not so great about the entire quarterback room as a whole. The fact that he was able to come in and kind of force a 3-man battle here.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot to add to San Jose State. It'll be just year 1 under a new staff, a lot of change, and I don't expect a whole bunch of wins coming out of San Jose State, at least year 1.
All right. Once again, sticking with that Mountain West, Nevada names Brendan Lewis the starter at quarterback for Week 1 versus SMU. Not a huge surprise. Brendan Lewis will he was the starter last year. So even though there is a new coaching staff, Chuba Purdy is still, from my understanding, recovering from an injury, and so he's kind of been on the shelf a little bit. And so, Brendan Lewis is going to get that start Week 0 versus SMU, in what is now going to be a P5 versus G5 matchup, with SMU being in the ACC.
Yeah, I don't think it's really going to matter week 1. I mean, we'll get to our previews, but I think I like SMU in Week 0.
All right, a lot of Mountain West news here, folks. True freshman Danny O'Neal is named the starter at quarterback. for San Diego State in Week 1. I had not shared this with anyone in my sphere of influence other than Luke. I told Luke early in the spring that Danny O'Neil is probably going to win this job. Just reading the tea leaves, and the fact that he's a true freshman, and here he is, like being talked about in the same breath as Florida State transfer AJ Duffy. Now in the fall. They became more of a 3-person race between Duffy, O'Neal, and Javiance Tupiata Johnson. But it was just announced yesterday that Danny O'Neal won that job. And I don't know, it kind of sounded like AJ Duffy just he never separated from them. Trying to read the tea leaves, and the fact that he couldn't separate says a lot.
Well, even I'm sure we'll have a short that releases, somewhat soon in the next, couple days. But even their beat reporter had mentioned of like it's not an indictment on that quarterback group, but O'Neal just was that much better, and he kind of sang his praises. So if you were paying attention to the G5 Hive Worker Bee series, I mean, I think the beat reporter did mention Duffy as the breakout, but like he spoke very, very highly of Danny O'Neal.
Yeah, you should if you get a chance, you definitely go do that, bud. San Diego State with Sean Lewis at the helm should certainly make for an exciting season there in San Diego. I'm a little bit jealous. I wish I could go see him myself. All right. Again, staying with the Mountain West, Wyoming running back Harrison Whaley suffered a knee injury in fall camp. He recently had surgery. They referred to it as a scope on his left knee, and surgery went well. Early reports indicated he could be back for an early season return. And then after the surgery, Coach Savell said it went well, and he is optimistic about Whaley's return this season. DJ Jones would be the main beneficiary here, as he's a transfer from North Carolina. He was a running back at North Carolina. Last year, they moved him over to the defense at Wyoming. He came there because he wants to play running back. So he's going to be the main beneficiary there. DeWine McNeely is still recovering from his own knee injury, which was an ACL tear in 2023. So DJ Jones looks to be the man for the Cowboys, at least the early part of the season. Again, injury news in college football, it's very scarce. Just kind of reading between the lines, my guess is he had some kind of meniscus issue. Because that would normally be like what you would do, kind of getting cleaned up.
Yeah, that gives you like about 4 to 6, and it kind of matches with that kind of coach speech of like, an early return. So it's like, okay, that's early in the season. Things were as good as they could have been. Like, hey, we went in there and we, maybe we just trimmed it up. We didn't have to do a lot more. Because you never know what happens. It's just like opening the walls in your house when you're like, oh, we're gonna do this, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we just opened up, this what is it? I want to say box worms. That is not correct. We open up the the can of worms. That's kind of what it seemed like. Kind of go in like, hey, everything went as good as planned. So my guess is, yeah, like you said, the meniscus. I think maybe just a trim up. So I'm looking at that right around beginning of October time frame. And we did our research, and he was the number one guy. There are some reports about scrimmages and who's running with the 1s and 2s, and DJ Jones was running with the ones at a point in the scrimmage. But there was no doubt about it that Harrison Whaley was the number one back going into the season. So DJ Jones, like you said, will be the main beneficiary. But I would, based off of reading between the tea leaves and making sure that that Whaley was that number one, it sounds like Whaley will get that job back, assuming DJ Jones just doesn't blow it out of the waters.
Yeah, and like you said, Whaley prior to the injury, regardless of what you may have seen in terms of who's running with the 1s or 2s at the time of the injury, Harrison Whaley was the number one prior to this injury. He may have just been running with the 2s to get DJ Jones some look with the 1s that particular day or whatever. yeah, he was the man prior to this knee injury, and the one thing just about a meniscus injury is, and I'm speaking from my own personal experience. I've torn my meniscus twice, and the recovery time really is going to be dictated by, was it like a cleaning up where they kind of remove some stuff, or was it a repair? And if it's just kind of a cleaning up, that's like 4 to 6 weeks. If it's a actual repair, that's going to be a little bit longer, because it takes longer for that repair to heal. So if we do hear some news, just kind of keep that in mind. If we find out, hey, they repaired his meniscus, well, then we should expect a little bit longer.
And I don't think we're gonna hear that.
I don't think we will, but you never know.
I don't think we are. But I'm looking at that time frame. Like if we're at the end of September and he's still not, out there, I would expect him to be out there either way, practicing wise. But if we're in that like end of September, beginning of October, and he hasn't played in the game yet, I'm going to go under the assumption that it was more of a repair, and we might not. Maybe we get a red shirt, medical red shirt there for Whaley, depending on how the season's going.
All right, moving over to Utah State out of the Mountain West, wide receiver Micah Davis has transferred to Ole Miss. You might say, well, how is that possible? Well, Utah State dismissed head coach Blake Anderson not too long ago, and because they dismissed their coach, that means the transfer portal window opened up. It's a 30-day window, and Micah Davis elected to take that opportunity, and he's off to Ole Miss. My guess is he got some money. He got a bag, so to speak, and he decided to go to Ole Miss. I'm not sure he's going to crack the starting rotation at receiver. I certainly expect to see him back there returning punts and kicks, though, right? I think that's where he's going to kind of make his mark, so to speak, for that Ole Miss team, and Ole Miss certainly has a great shot at making that playoff. So hopefully at the end of the day, it'll all be worth it for Micah Davis. No one else really of note took advantage of that 30-day window, and I think it might be closed now, or it closes like in the next day or two. So, but we don't really expect anything else in terms of big name players transferring out of Utah State. All right, moving over to the Sun Belt, and Troy, they have officially named Goose Crowder, Will Crowder, nicknamed Goose, as their starting quarterback here in 2024. And if you listen to our Worker Bee series, you would have already known that well before the news came out. When we interviewed Josh Boutwell there, he pretty much told us, hey, they might say it's a job, it's a competition, but it's Goose Crowder. It's 100% Goose Crowder. And I'm excited.
Yeah, you would have known that June 12th release date, June 12th. You would have already known this.
Yeah, the one cool thing we got out of the announcement was that we got a cool graphic, right? We got a cool. I don't know if you saw it, Luke, but it was really cool, like Top Gun goose goose graphic. So that was one cool thing we got out of it. But yeah, again, our Worker Bee series, man, we really kind of hit every name we could for you guys and try to uncover this information before it's quote made official. This one kind of really surprised me. And this one you would not have learned from our Worker Bee series because it's not what any of us thought would happen. But Devin Cargman has been named the starter at Kent State. And that was a bit of a surprise. I think all of us kind of expected it to be touchdown Tommy Ulatowski. That's even who we, when we interviewed the student reporter back in, it would have been, I guess, May or so, maybe early April. He was really pushing touchdown Tommy pretty hard. How he had looked really good in the spring, and so my only assumption is Devin Cargman must have hit it hard in the summer, and he came out firing in fall camp, and he made him make a change there just to start him. When when Cardman has started, he hasn't looked good. So hopefully he's taken those lessons and will be much improved for the Golden Flashes.
Nothing much more to add there.
This one I just saw recently. Former Oklahoma State running back Jaden Nixon transferred to Western Michigan. I personally think that's a depth move, right? Because if you watched our Worker Bee series, it's pretty much, hey, we got Jalen Buckley, Zahir Abdul Salam, and then after that, man, I don't know what we got. They were, matter of fact, he even said, even with Salam still there, he said if Buckley goes down, we're in trouble. And so Jaden Nixon is someone that's going to be able to, come over from the Power 5. Looked okay at times there at Oklahoma State, and he's going to give them some depth there at running back, which I think is just even better news, right, for Jalen Buckley, because they don't have to, maybe worry so much about limiting his touches because they know they got some quality depth behind them.
Absolutely. Yeah, depth piece, it's Buckley. Jaden Nixon, being at Oklahoma State, used to running behind a workhorse back. So, yeah, depth piece.
Former Houston running back, and actually he was USC before he was at Houston. Brandon Campbell has transferred to UMass. UMass lost Karan Adams Lynch, and then Greg DeRozier's in the spring, I think in the middle of spring practice. Those are their top two backs. And then they had a lot of injuries, right? Jalen John was injured in the spring. Cookie Desiderio got most of the run there in the spring. And so Brandon Campbell's going to come there, and he's certainly going to add some depth. And my guess is add some more competition to that running back room. Something it sounded like that they needed when we interviewed Mike Maynard there at Temple. I'm sorry, at UMass. And so interested to see kind of what Brandon Campbell can do there for the UMass Minutemen.
I'm not probably going to have a lot to add here going forward, Justice. So,
alrighty. Big news out of the Conference USA and for Florida International. They recently announced that their rapper / recording artist Pitbull, aka Mr. 305, bought the naming rights to the stadium. It's a 5-year deal for $6 million. The school gets $1.2 million per year. Kudos to Florida International, man. That's a huge deal for them. Helps bring some notoriety, brings in some money. Hopefully will help them with some NIL stuff. That's a major win for the Golden Panthers down there in Miami. So excited to kind of see what that deal can kind of do for them and how that can help recruiting and impact their NIL collectives there. The Tulane quarterback competition, again, another bit of a shocker. It's now a 3-man race between Ty Thompson, Kai Horton, and Darian Mensah. Apparently, Mensah has had a really, really good fall camp, and the other two guys have not done so much. And now, again, that's a shocker because I think most folks assumed it would be Ty Thompson. And if it wasn't Ty Thompson, well, they had Kai Horton. Kai Horton looked good in times in relief of Michael Pratt. So, man, we saw that news. I don't know, was it yesterday when we talked to Gary? And he was sharing that with us. And that was that, or maybe it was this morning, actually. That was a bit of a shocker.
Yeah. Yep. And based off of what I'm seeing, like you say, Justice, reading between the tea leaves, I kind of like Darian to maybe get the start here because Ty Thompson, Kai Horton, they haven't pulled away. And Ty Thompson coming in from Oregon, he was kind of assumed to be that starter, had foot surgery early in the winter, I believe, or right after fall. And he was going to be the starter, it looked like. But Mensah, I kind of like the drumbeat I am hearing around him.
All right, staying in the AAC, Jake Garcia was named the starting quarterback for the East Carolina Pirates this week. I would say that's a mild surprise. just because there were concerns about the offensive line. Jake Garcia comes over most recently from Missouri. Formerly, he was Miami. They also brought in Caton Hauser from Michigan State. And Caton Hauser is probably the more mobile of the two options. And so I think that the prevailing thought was that, hey, if there's offensive line concerns, then maybe Hauser kind of gets the nod because he's a more mobile option. And so maybe this is a good thing for East Carolina, right? That maybe this shows that, hey, we think the offensive line is going to be good. It's going to hold up, and let's roll out with Jake Garcia, man. He gives us the best chance to win with his arm, and so this could be a good thing here for East Carolina.
Yep, and I can't wait for this last piece of news. Break it to us.
So going back to the Mountain West, and Luke kind of teased this a whole lot earlier, but in a I don't know. I mean, it's not like a super shocker, but I think it's a shock. It's a shock to general college football fans, and that is Maddox Madsen was named the starting quarterback at Boise State. He got the nod over former 5-star recruit and some places #1 overall recruit Malachi Nelson, who had transferred there from USC. I think folks said it was a battle all the time, the entire time, but I don't think anyone really believed them, right? And I think this news definitely taken. It was a little bit of a surprise.
Yep, and we interviewed Ron Counts there at Boise State. We did our interview April 19th. That released April 29th. And he pretty much alluded to, like, it's going to be hard to take Maddox, this job away from Maddox. And like you said, people said it, but people didn't want to believe it. And here we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Just I don't know, like what a mighty just a big drop in terms of the perception of Malachi Nelson, right? He was like the #1 overall recruit, top quarterback, going to USC, learner from Lincoln Riley, and now he's at Boise State and he's not even the starter. Just goes to show that, hey, everybody has misses. Like I said, all the recruiting services had Malachi as a top level recruit, and Maddox Madsen, I don't even know, was like a 3-star maybe. I'm not even sure, but he definitely wasn't any higher than a 3-star. It's an inexact science, and everybody wins and everybody loses at some point in their career as far as that kind of stuff goes. All right, well, let's get over to kind of our main topics this week. So what do you have? What's the good stuff? What's the nectar you got for us there, Luke?
All right. G5 only top 25 poll by Hero Sports. This is a weekly poll being put out by Hero Sports. Kudos and thanks to them. We are one of the voters in this poll, along with a lot of other folks we interviewed during our Worker Bee series and other folks that are really knowledgeable about G5 college football. The preseason top 25 poll is out for our audio medium. Go check out our YouTube channel. We've got all 25 teams here. I'm not going to go through all of them. You're watching it. You can look at it. For our audio medium, I do want to highlight our top 5. So we have Boise State at #1 with 11 first place votes. We have Memphis coming in at #2 with 7 first place votes. Liberty at #3 with 1 first place vote. #4, Appalachian State coming in at #5, Tulane, Green Wave. We had a couple other notables that we wanted to talk about. #7, UTSA Roadrunners. They also got 1 first place vote. And #11, Miami of Ohio Redhawks. We have them atop the Mid-American. So, again, there are the 25 teams making up the G5 only top 25 poll by Hero Sports. Now, Justice, I want to talk a little bit about some differences. What were the biggest differences in our votes versus the consensus?
So before we get to the differences, I guess we share our personal top 5.
Sure.
And it's a little bit different than what what the consensus was. So we had Memphis number 1, and in the consensus poll, they were number 2. We had Boise State number 2. Consensus, they were number 1. We had App State number 3. Consensus number 4. Liberty, we had them at number 4. They were consensus number 3. And then we agreed with the consensus as far as having Tulane number 5. So we just swapped Memphis and Boise. Memphis and Boise, and then App State and Liberty. But I think you're splitting hairs really between those top 5, and that kind of why they were the consensus top 5. But there were some big differences between what we submitted as our top 25 poll and what the consensus had in their top 25. And so the biggest difference in terms of a delta was Tulsa. We had Tulsa as number 22 in our top 25 poll, and the consensus, if I counted out, they would have had them at number 46. So that's almost double. It's more than double than what we had, right? I think Luke and I are both. I think Tulsa. I think the big question mark with Tulsa is the quarterback situation. Tulsa did not have a great season last year, but that wasn't because of the lack of talent. I think that was really the quarterback play was not good. Tulsa looked a lot better towards the end of the season when they had Kirk Francis out there. They bring in Cooper Legas from Utah State. Kirk Francis returns. Cardell Williams returns. It really seems like this is going to be kind of Kirk Francis's job. And he might not have the ceiling of a Cardell Williams per se, but I think he's going to offer them, a lot more consistency. And I think the same would be true if they started Cooper Legas as well. And so I just think if they can get that consistent quarterback play, that Tulsa's from a record standpoint is gonna be much improved, and people are gonna be like, oh, why didn't we think about Tulsa here in 2024?
Yep, and then you look at their schedule. So we got Northwest State, Arkansas State, then Oklahoma State, Louisiana Tech. So like right there in those first 4 games,
it could be 3-1 easily.
3-1. Yep, 2-2, 3-1. North Texas. You'll get them at the middle of the season. I think that will be a tough matchup on the road. You've got Army at home. Again, that's just hard to prep for Army, but I think that they should. They can beat Army. You got the Temple Owls. You got UTSA. That team, with new quarterback. We'll see what they look like this year. UAB, East Carolina, South Florida will be a tough game. Luckily, you go to South Florida, so it's not like you have to waste a home game there. And then Florida Atlantic. So, like, their schedule doesn't look all that tough. I think, consensus 46 is looking at Tulsa from what they have been and not what they can be.
Absolutely. So before we get to our next biggest difference, Billy, yes, Texas State is on the list. They're number 6. So if you're watching in on video form, we just kind of use the logos to try to fit all 25 teams on here versus the names. But yeah, the Texas State Bobcats are number 6. I want to say, I think they were probably, I don't know where we had them, Luke. Do you remember? It was definitely in the top 10. I don't know if they were our number 16, but they were definitely in our top 10. But consensus has the Texas State Bobcats number 6 there, Billy. All right. The next biggest difference for us, we had the Sam Houston Bearcats, number 21. The consensus had them double, had them at number 42. And again, I think kind of the same thing with Tulsa. Folks are looking at what happened last season and looking at the record. Sam Houston was a much better team, I feel like, than their record indicated last year. Liberty should have lost. Liberty should have lost to Sam Houston. Like, Sam Houston, they blew that game, but at the very end, and Liberty should have lost to them, and that kind of shows you the quality of Sam Houston. And I think the thing that really held Sam Houston back a year ago kind of the same as Tulsa, was quarterback play.
Quarterback.
And they bring in Jace Bauer coming from Central Michigan. They bring in Hunter Watson coming. I believe he came over from either JUCO or Division II. I'm not 100% sure on that. From a JUCO, and word is that like it's quite a battle between these two guys, and Hunter Watson has looked really, really good. I think a lot of folks just assumed, hey, it's going to be Jace Bauer, and it still might be Jace Bauer, but Hunter Watson is definitely giving him a run for the money and has looked really, really good in this offense. And, you know, I think Sam Houston, again, like Tulsa, is going to surprise some folks.
You know what? I'm going to probably need to get some Sam Houston gear or something, because as the season has gone on, I feel like I am talking them up more and more and more. I went on to a show to talk about this conference, and, you know, the second thing I said in there, you know, is I think Sam Houston ends up being in the conference championship game against Liberty. And it was like, you know, right out the bat, and, you know, DraftKings, I don't know what they have them today, but when we were prepping for this, they were at 4.5. Like, I think that they crush that number. I am all about the Sam Houston State team, or Sam Houston, sorry, they dropped the state for football. But yeah, I think Hunter Watson is a name that people need to get familiar with. I don't think he's going to get the start. I do feel like that they will go with Jace Bauer for the first couple games, and then because he's just got that experience, and then you got Hawaii, and I think Hawaii is a team that you can beat. I think Hawaii is a team that's going to throw the ball a lot, so you're going to get your chances to throw, and, you know, maybe they give him the second half of that game, or maybe they give him the full game. But I am in the camp where I believe Hunter Watson is the guy that is going to end up leading this team. We'll see how the first two games go. I'm trying to remember who they play those first two games. I know UCF is one of them, and cannot for the life of me remember the first game. But I think it's Hunter Watson, Quaviz Humphreys. Get to know the name Quaviz Humphreys. This team is gonna shock a lot of people. They were the consensus 42. We had them at 21.
Next up, we had North Texas at number 23. The consensus on them was number 41. And again, looking at results from last season, and the big, I guess to me, like the thing that I have a hard time with North Texas, folks moved Texas State up to number 6, right? Now they had a better season a year ago than North Texas, but North Texas and Texas State, I feel like have a lot of similarities. Last season, the defense wasn't great at either team, right? And so North Texas, when we talked to Brett Vito during our Worker Bee series, he kind of, he told us, hey, you know, the problem was a year ago they wanted to run this 3-3-5. They didn't have the guys up front to run a 3-3-5. They have gone out and made a concerted effort to get the guys that they feel can run this system. And you know, I'm a believer. I think that defense is going to be much improved, and I think, you know, North Texas again is gonna like Texas State's going to surprise some folks. The offense is already good. They bring in Chandler Morris from TCU. Really, my biggest concern with North Texas is Chandler Morris staying healthy. That's been a problem for him the last 2 seasons at TCU. The year TCU went to the national championship game, Chandler Morris won that job. He was the starter. He got injured, lost the job, and you know, kind of got Wally Pipp there a little bit, and then last year again won the job, was the starter, got hurt. Josh Hoover comes in and plays outstanding, and the rest is history. So, you know, he's had that injury bug, and so that's going to be a big key. And they don't have a lot of depth behind them, and so, you know, Chandler Morris is going to kind of be the key, I feel like, to North Texas this season. But assuming he's healthy, I think they're in for a good year.
And then we had Rice at number 10. You don't see Rice at all in there. We had Rice at number 10. They were a consensus number 26. We love us some Rice Owls.
Absolutely. I mean, that's not the biggest delta, But that's that was the biggest shocker to me, that Rice wasn't anywhere on this top 25. They are one of the top teams in terms of returning production. I think they lost 2 starters from a season ago.
One.
And,
I think just one. They bring back. I think they bring back. I think maybe they lost one offensive lineman, and then that was
and
it.
they lost quarterback. Well, they lost their quarterback.
Yeah,
but by our count, we think they brought in a better quarterback. They lost JT Daniels, but they bring in EJ Warner from Temple, one of the top passers in the American the last 2 seasons. I think people are just. I don't know. I mean, they're not flashy. I think people are just really, really sleeping on Rice this year, and we'll talk about them a lot more when we do our conference preview, man. But that really shocked me that Rice was not in the top 25. They were the first team out, so they got the most votes that didn't make it in. But man, like Rice, I think I don't know if anyone had Rice. We'll have to ask Hero Sports if anyone had Rice higher than we did. That'd be a fun thing to kind of track as we go throughout the season for sure.
Then we had Louisiana at number 25. They were the consensus number. Well, it says 10 here. I don't think.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yep. Number 15. Number 15. Sorry.
Oh, 15. Okay.
Yeah, they were number 15. Consensus number 15. Yeah. We had them at 25.
So yeah, I don't know. Just listening to that, Worker Bee series and what I mean, there's a lot to be hopeful for. I just, looking at everybody else, I think when we were putting this together, like I'm gonna have to get this going here to figure out where we had them. But I think you were maybe higher on them than I was, and I was dragging them down between you and me.
I don't think I had them any higher than 20, but I think, and this to me is the puzzling thing about Louisiana. I think the reason why they're so high in a lot of people's minds is because of the returning production. But those same people don't talk about Rice in that same way. And like, I'm way more excited about Rice than I am Louisiana. Louisiana I think's an okay team. I think, but I don't think they're like, and again, we'll talk about them in our preview. I just think folks are underestimating or overestimating their returning production and severely underestimating Rice. Kind of the exact opposite there. I just don't know that. I mean, Louisiana, like they're a good team. They're good at everything. I don't think they're great at anything.
Then let's hear. We did not have number 16 Troy, and we did not have number 17 Jacksonville State ranked, but they were in our next group of 8 teams that we considered when we made this list. Justice and I kind of made our list and then kind of went by, had some give and take. But yeah, that is, we did not have number 16 Troy or 17 Jacksonville State in there.
I mean, both of those, like we considered. I think there's just a lot of turnover at Troy, and that's I think why we're a little bit more down on them maybe than others. They certainly may prove to be a top 25 team, but I think we were kind of more of a hey, let them prove it first to us. A lot of personnel changeover, a lot of coaching. The whole coaching staff's new, so we just kind of want to see what Troy will do here in 2024. Before we put them in our top 25. And then Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State lost a ton, man. They lose quarterback Zion Webb. And then where they really took some hits was on the defense. And that was one of the better, if not the best G5 defenses a year ago. But they lost a ton. They lose Chris Hardy. They lose Larry Worth at linebacker, Colby Fuqua at defensive back, and they had some other losses there as well. And so that's kind of, for me anyway, what scares me off Jacksonville State. And they lost their coordinator, right? They lost their defensive coordinator as well. And so I'm just not sure that I think the defense will be good. I don't think they'll be as good as last season. And so that's kind of was my reasoning for not including them in our top 25.
And for me, this top 25 of not having Jacksonville State in there is, you have head coach, first year head coach here at Jacksonville State, goes to a bowl win in Rich Rodriguez. Were you a big fan of Louisiana Monroe last year? Well, I mean, a lot of guys on that team were from Louisiana Monroe, and they go out there and they win a bowl game in their first. And Louisiana Monroe's like, hey, that should have been our bowl win, and now they lose a lot of those guys. So again, I think this is a common theme here is looking back at last year and letting last year dictate what this year is going to be. I believe it was Fat Joe that the great Fat Joe once said, yesterday's price is not today's price.
Absolutely. And you see that we've seen that a lot in this poll, right? And so yeah, that's kind of where I think our why we have some differences that other folks don't necessarily see things the same way, or why they don't see them the same way. And then the last difference is two teams that are ranked, and we didn't have them in our top 25. They weren't. We had like a group of 8 teams that we were considering, and they weren't in that group either. And that's number 21 Army and number 22 Bowling Green.
Yeah, I just liked a lot more teams than what we had there. I'm trying to think of the teams that I had there. I think I was considering San Diego State. I was looking at Ball State. I really kind of like Middle Tennessee State a little bit. I know the betting department does not. I think they're at like 5 games or 5.5 games or something, but I kind of like Middle Tennessee State. I would have Jacksonville State over them. UTEP. I want to like UTEP. I think I'm going to be a year too early, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. But I kind of like what UTEP's doing.
Yeah, I mean, Army moves to a new conference. They're in the American. I think. I don't know. I don't think Army's a bad team, but I feel like they're kind of like, from a record standpoint, they'll be similar to what they were a year ago, right? Somewhere around 500, maybe a game, maybe 2 games over 500, maybe. And then Bowling Green, I think the problem with Bowling Green is quarterback, right? Number one, they're in the MAC, so all MAC teams typically play like a brutal out of conference schedule. I don't think Bowling Green is any different in that regard, and like they kind of have 2 quarterbacks they rotate there with Connor Bazelak and Camden North, and I don't know. I just feel like, yeah, you got 2 quarterbacks, you got none, right? You're constantly rotating, and so to me, I just too many questions at quarterback and that quarterback play for Bowling Green. I think they got a strong running game there with Tyrion Stewart, assuming he's back to full health. They got probably the best tight end in all of the group of 5 in Harold Fannin Jr. A decent defense, but for me, it's just that quarterback play is not up to snuff for me, for the Falcons to kind of put them into my top 25. Do you have anything else you want to add before we move on?
No, I just wanted to address Billy Tuesday's comment.
Oh yeah, that's where I was going to go.
So Billy Tuesday says, do you guys support separate G5 national rankings and playoffs? I say no. We kind of talked about this a little bit during the year, but there was an article by the ODU Monarchists that talked about doing like a, kind of like the Rose Bowl for the Big Ten and Pac-12 champion, back in the day, like the granddaddy of them all. Wouldn't it be great if we had something similar for that for the G5? Go to like South Alabama, go to New Orleans, go to LA,
Boise,
go to Idaho, whatever that may be, but have something. You've got 5 teams. You've got one team that's always going to be making the playoff. So you always pin 2 conferences, in those 2 bowls. I think, I would like a South Alabama, because then you kind of feed into the Reese's Senior Bowl stuff and whatnot. And South Alabama's been rich in history. Heck, you could even go to Marshall. I don't know how many people want to go to Marshall there, but there's a lot of history there with the Marshall. But, from a marketing standpoint, you go to LA, you go to New Orleans, something like that, where all roads lead to New Orleans or something, and then whatever team gets plucked to make the playoffs, then you just have this floater team that goes in and plays, and your conference champion goes in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great idea. We've talked about it a couple times, this year, and I think it kind of gives you the best of both worlds, right? So you're still part of the FBS playoff, kind of like Kendrick was alluding to. You're still part of you still get your shot at winning a national title, and then you take those other 4 teams and you match them up, and so you're kind of getting a mini playoff, if you will, among the G5, but it's all done within the current system, right? And so you're not losing anything by doing that. And I think another thing it does is, if the G5 wants to kind of do their own thing, do something like this first. Like, it's kind of an intermediary step. It kind of gives you the best of both worlds, and maybe it kind of helps you understand what the appetite is for having your own G5 playoff before you fully go and commit to that, and then you realize, hey, we screwed up. We shouldn't have done this. Because I can tell you, once you give that up, you're not getting it back. And I think that's the major problem with the G5 doing their own thing, because once they give up that automatic berth, buddy, there will be no turning back. That will not happen. And so I think this kind of hybrid approach, I guess, is the best way to term it, that the ODU Monarchists came up with, is a really great idea. And build some fanfare around those 2 bowl games, right? Whether, like Luke said, whether it's the LA Bowl, the New Orleans Bowl, the bowl down in Mobile, Alabama, or the bowl, the famous Idaho Bowl there in Boise. Those are, I think, some great options to kind of be that G5 versus G5 champion versus champion. Let's say, for instance, if it happened a year ago, right, Liberty would have made the playoffs. So that's the Conference USA, the winner going to the playoffs. So then you take maybe the MAC champion versus the Mountain West champion. And then you take the Sun Belt champion versus the AAC champion. And they play each other, and you kind of get some great G5 versus G5 matchups. Man, I'd love to see it. Love to see it. Hopefully we can talk that idea into existence here in the not too distant future.
All right, now we are coming up on an hour. Typically, our shows only last an hour, but guess what, guys? We are so excited. Week 0 is right around the corner. Let's talk about conference champions, contenders, dark horses, Justice, American Athletic Conference, the AAC. Who do you have as your champion?
So no surprise here. I have the Memphis Tigers as my champion. I think they're the best team in all of Group of 5, so no shock that I would have them as the champion of the AAC here in 2024.
I agree with you. I would go with Memphis over USF. I think that Memphis takes on the Bulls in the championship and beats them. I think that the USF is a great contender, and I'm really looking forward to that game, September 28th, USF at Tulane. Early in the season, that could be the game that decides who plays Memphis in the championship. Justice, who are some other contenders that you think might go up against Memphis?
Yeah, I mean, like you pointed out, that game, that's my 2 contenders, the Tulane Green Wave and the South Florida Bulls. Tulane, it's going to come down to quarterback play. I think that's going to dictate how their 2024 season goes. And for South Florida, it's going to be the defense, man. The defense wasn't so great a year ago. There's absolutely no concerns with that offense and Byron Brown and Alex Galesh. But that defense has got to get better.
Whoa. You forgot to mention friend of the show, Sean Atkins. Sean Atkins
I did.
Yeah. So
man.
We had him on. We had him on earlier. So if you missed that, make sure you go check out that interview we did with 1,000-yard receiver, first in school history, Sean Atkins.
Yeah, that's like a shocker, right? Like, who would have thought South Florida never had a 1,000-yard receiver? And then they get one, and it's a guy that was a walk-on, man. A great story, right? He goes from a walk-on to being like one of the top receivers, or the top receiver in school history. That's just a pretty amazing story. If you want to hear more, like Luke said, check out our interview there with Sean Atkins. But yeah, South Florida, it's the defense. It's all about the defense. That defense has got to have to improve for them to take a big jump up this season for 2024.
Dark horses.
Yeah, so dark horses. This should be no surprise if you listen to us talk about this top 25 poll here. But Rice was kind of the a dark horse for us. It's we both Luke and I are like super duper high on Rice. And we expect a lot out of them here in 2024. Like we said before, they are one of the tops in returning production. They bring in E.J. Warner, one of the top quarterbacks in the AAC. Solid running back play, Dean Connors. They got, again, a top tight end in Bowden Grown. They got some youngsters there at receiver and Landon Ransom and Rawson McNeil. The defense returns, I think, just about everybody, right? I think it was offensive line and quarterback were the two starters that they're missing. And so I think Rice is going to shock a lot of people. And like to me, right now, I know Luke had Memphis over USF. I think I'd pick Memphis over Rice. So I'd have Rice in my championship game. That's how much I believe in the Rice Owls here in 2024.
All right. Conference USA, the CUSA. Who do you have as your champion?
No shocker here, right? The Liberty Flames. They're the class of this conference. They have a relatively weak schedule. They do play App State at App State. They play them in Boone, and so I think everybody but any Liberty alumni will be App State fans that day. But yeah, the Liberty Flames, easy choice here for Conference USA champions, back to back.
Yeah, I also went with Liberty, and like I talked about earlier, I've got Liberty over Sam Houston. DraftKings has them over under 4.5 wins. Sam Houston makes the championship game. They played the last week of the season. That will be a great game. Can't wait for that one. I say, conference MVP, Caden Salter. Don't think that's pretty crazy. Conference Offensive Player of the Year goes to my boy, Hunter Watson. He's going to be the Offensive Player of the Year for that conference. Give me all of Sam Houston. Anybody, Sam Houston, you're listening, send your boy some Sam Houston gear. I'm some Bearcats. Give me some Bearcats. I guess, who are your contenders? I said Sam Houston. Who do you have?
So my number one contender, I think I have to go to Western Kentucky. They brought in another offensive coordinator there. Maybe they can get things turned around and get that offense back to its high-flying ways. They bring in TJ Finley over from Texas State at quarterback. They also have Caden Belt-Camp there as well. And I don't know. I just feel like I think maybe this is a bounce-back year for Western Kentucky. And so that's kind of who I have in the championship game there, Liberty and Western Kentucky. And, dark horses, like you mentioned, I have Sam Houston as one of my dark horses. I'm not quite where Luke is on Sam Houston, but I do like him. I think I feel like third is a good place to kind of spot them in there in Conference USA, and then along with Sam Houston, some other dark horses I had. Luke talked about him earlier, Middle Tennessee and Jacksonville State. I think Jacksonville State's just a solid team. We'll see if that defense can be as good as it was a year ago, and we'll see if they can get some good quarterback play with Logan Smothers. Who are your dark horses, Luke?
It's not really a dark horse, but same as you, Western Kentucky. I think their over/under is like 7.5, so they're not really a dark horse. So if I have to, really dig deep on a dark horse, I think I'm higher than most on Middle Tennessee, like you said, and I really want to like UTEP. I think they're going to ride Javon Jackson. He's going to actually end up being the conference running back of the year, Javon Jackson. So mark it down. He is a transfer from Austin Peay. Got that staff coming over. I'm probably a year too early on UTEP. I want to like him so much.
I mean, I think they're going to be much improved. Absolutely. I think the key for them is going to be quarterback play, right? So that's going to be the key. They brought a ton of transfers over with them from Austin Peay. They have a ton of talent, if they can get quarterback play, like that's not a bad pick, Luke. Really, yeah, but it's going to come down to that quarterback play. If they can get either I think is it Cade McConnell or
Yep.
Skylar Locklear, I think are the two main ones in the competition. If one of those guys can kind of separate and at least be average for them, I think UTEP can surprise some folks.
All right, Mid-American Conference, MAC. We know the MACtion gives us some fun every Tuesday. Who's your champion?
I went with Miami, Ohio. I just feel like from what they return, Brett Gabbert again, and this pick is solely based on Brett Gabbert playing all year long. If Brett Gabbert goes down again, I don't know that they are going to be able to make it to the championship game, much less win the championship game. But Brett Gabbert, ton of experience. They bring back, probably the two best linebackers, or the top two, maybe the top duo in the MAC, and Matt Selipek and Ty Wise. And so that defense,
You got a pretty good defense. You got a pretty good defensive end.
The defense is going to be, I think, really good. Brian Ugwu, their defensive end. And so Brett Gabbert, a great defense. I think Gabbert's going to finally win a championship, and he's probably, if he does that, he's got a great shot at being the conference player of the year.
I have him, Brett Gabbert, as the conference MVP. He takes Miami. I don't even need to say of Ohio, Justice. The disrespect that you give Miami. Everybody knows when you talk Miami, it's Miami of Ohio. You don't even need to say it. Miami over NIU in my championship game. I think NIU and Toledo are other contenders. I have to put Toledo there because they just recruit so well every year. They have a really good defense. Tucker Gleason going to run that squad there at quarterback. I like the things that they're doing. NIU, I went NIU in that championship game just because I really like the running backs, wide receivers. I like it's that quarterback room that we just got to figure out. And as long as I like Tucker Gleason more. So it's like, but like every other piece, like if you can manage and figure out how you want to put together that quarterback spot, I like NIU overall.
So I had Toledo as my number one contender to Miami of Ohio. So Miami, Ohio over Toledo in the championship game. Like you said, Toledo year in and year out is one of the better teams in the MAC. I don't think this year is any different. They recruit at a high level. They play at a high level. And so for me, it's kind of like, to me, there's a clear tier. I think for me, it's Miami and Toledo and then the next group. And the next group will be our dark horses. And for me, I include Northern Illinois as a dark horse. Like you said, they have a great running game and they have an amazing defense. The problem with them is going to be quarterback play. I fear it's going to be like a game manager, right? And like he's just going to be asked to not lose the game, not necessarily win the game. And so that puts a lot of stress on the running game, a lot of stress on the defense. And I don't think that formula is going to win them a lot of games, but I don't think it's going to get them to a MAC championship game if they can't get better quarterback play than a game manager. And then probably my bigger dark horse would be Ohio. Ohio lost a lot. Parker Navarro's the starter there at quarterback. Ricky Hunnick at running back. I like some of their defensive pieces, and I just think that folks aren't expecting much out of Ohio this year, and I think they're going to surprise folks. And I think I don't know that they're going to make it to the championship game, but I think they're going to get to 7, maybe 8 wins this year, and I think that'd be a bit of a shock to some folks here in 2024.
If I had to pick a dark horse, I have to look at their schedule again. You put NIU as a dark horse, so obviously I have them in a championship game, so I say they're my dark horse. You have Toledo as a tier above, so I won't have them as my dark horse. I'm going to go with Eastern Michigan, and Eastern Michigan being another dark horse. Again, I'm going to have to look up that schedule, but that defense, I really like the defense there. Playing on that gray field, Max Crosby field. just like a parking lot. I think that defense is going to be what holds Eastern Michigan in a lot of games. But yeah, that's don't have. I mean, it's a dark horse. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Give me a second as I look up Eastern Michigan's football schedule here. UMass, maybe win there. They go to Washington, probably lose that. They got Jacksonville State at home, so I don't hate that. You've got St. Francis, PA. Go to Kent State. I feel pretty good about that. It sucks. You have a home game against Miami of Ohio. So, I mean, that'll be a tough game. Central Michigan, then Akron, at home against Toledo, go to Ohio. Then you've got Buffalo, and then Western Michigan to end the season. Like I can see. I'm talking myself into Eastern Michigan in a dark horse there. Mountain West. Let's end it with the Mountain West as our conference champions. Justice, who you got?
Well, it won't be the end. We still got the Sun Belt to go. But
sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Can't forget about the Sun Belt, man. Sun Belt's probably the best conference, at least in my opinion, the best conference on G5. But that's an argument for another day. My champions of the Sun Belt, Boise State, right? Luke and I had them number 2 in our top 25 poll. They're not only are they a contender, but then the favorite to win the Mountain West, they're a contender for that automatic berth there for the group of 5. So yeah, to me, Boise State kind of a clear favorite here in the Mountain West.
Oh, the sky is falling. Malachi Nelson's not the quarterback. The sky is falling. Of course, Boise State is going to be the champion. I have them. Maddox came in there and he did great. Like that, talk about a roller coaster of a 2023 season. And he came in there, did some great things for that team. But let's not forget, there's this guy that runs the ball there, and he runs it pretty good, and he catches the ball pretty good. And they've got a stable of wide receivers if they decide to pass it to anybody other than the Fighting Ashton Genties. And it's going to be Boise State, and they are going to play Colorado State in the Mountain West Championship. They're going to win. My contenders to go up there against Boise State, Colorado State, and Fresno State. Those are the 2 teams that I got my eye on. It wasn't too long ago that there was a coaching at Nevada, Jay Norvell. We had Carson Strong thrown for dang near 400 yards per game, and that kind of air raid type offense, fun offense to watch. I think he's got a lot of pieces. Torrey Horton come back. That was kind of a surprise. You've got Dylan Goffney. You've got Nick Fowler
Nicolosi.
Yep. I think he's going to take a big step. Word on the street is he was getting $600,000 to go into the portal from Kansas State. I think it was. Like other people are high on him as well. Give me Colorado State and Fresno State as my contenders. What about you?
For me, it's Fresno State. I think again, it's a kind of a clear tier. Boise State in a tier of its own. Fresno State as the kind of clear number 2 in my mind. Mikey Keene, that offense, going to be humming. I think the defense will be just as solid as it was a year ago. I guess if there was anything I had concerns about with Fresno State, it would be the coaching situation, right? Jeff Tedford, their head coach there, stepped down, I think in either June or July due to health concerns. And so I believe it was the defensive coordinator, I think is the one got named as the interim head coach. They kind of keep that staff together there. And we don't really expect any kind of changes in terms of schemes or anything. And so, that's maybe a little slight concern with Tedford not being there this year. But again, it's very minor in my eyes. And I think Fresno State will meet Boise State in that championship game.
So the only reason that I really put Colorado State over Fresno State, like I said, I both have them as contenders. We'll get to the dark horses. Obviously, it's Colorado State for me, but it's that Fresno State ran so pure last year. That offensive line had no injuries, and I just don't think that they can do it again. and you don't have a whole bunch of guys with a lot of experience back there. Excuse me. Back there. And that kind of frightens me. So it's like, what are the odds that they go another year with no offensive line injuries, knock on wood, and like Colorado State had a lot of adversity, whatnot. I think they only won 3 games last year, and here I have them in the conference championship game. I just think that they take that step, and maybe Fresno State has a little bit more hiccups than they had last year. I mean, obviously you had Malik Sherrod got hurt with an ankle injury, if I'm remembering correctly. Mikey King got beat up a little bit, but then for whatever reason, that offensive line avoided injury, and it's just one of those things you don't really see in college football. So,
and they have a big game. I think maybe week 2 against Michigan. So hopefully they can stay healthy. After
I think
that
it's week
game.
1. I think
It
it's
might
week
be,
1.
Maybe it might be week. I know it's early. I know it's definitely early. Fresno State goes into the big house and plays Michigan. So
who's your dark horse? I mentioned Colorado State as my dark horse. Who's
yours?
yours?
The same, Colorado State. I think Jay Norvell here, and I think this is year 3 for him at Colorado State. And so again, the only concern will be for me is the defense on the pass rush. They lose Muhammad Kamara, their outstanding edge from a year ago. He is now off to the NFL. And so if I had a concern, that would be it. But I think they have some young guys there, Newer Gatkuth, Boom Jock, some guys that can kind of help replace some of that lost production there from Mo Kamara. And I'm in agreement with you. I don't necessarily think they're going to make the championship game, but I think they are a dark horse there in the Mountain West.
Justice, pretend like these are transition lens. These are LED, helping me with glares and stuff. Imagine that these are transition lens. You got the sun beating down on me. They're dark. When I talk to you, Justice, I take my glasses off. I talk to you like a man, Jay Norvell. We stand on business over here, and I got Colorado State in that dark horse and in that conference championship. So, Sun Belt Conference champion, Justice, who do you have?
App State, man. I'm a big believer in App State this year. I think they are clearly the best team in the Sun Belt, in my opinion. And I think we had them ranked number 3, just behind Memphis and Boise State. We had them ranked above Liberty, and I think us ranking them above Liberty is going to be proven to be right when App State puts it on Liberty there in Boone in November. I think our prediction of them over Liberty now in this poll is going to definitely be proven right on that day in Boone in November. And so App State for me, clear favorite here in the Sun Belt.
Yeah, I like Joey Aguilar, Caden Robinson. Love that team.
Anderson Castle. I mean, if you want some App State stuff, man, right? We did an interview with Caden Robinson, their top receiver, moved to the slot this year. A big season incoming for him. And then Anderson Castle, who David Ware from App State Mania, he was there. He was the breakout offensive player of the year for App State by David. And so, two outstanding young men. We interviewed both. Go check those out if you haven't already seen them on our YouTube feed and also on podcast form.
So, I have App State over Texas State in the championship. Texas State brings in Jordan McLeod. Sun Belt Player of the Year comes over from James Madison. I like what they are doing there. They're not doing flashy cars and they're recruiting. They're just floating down a river. Give me App State over Texas State, Joey Aguilar, conference MVP, and then, conference offensive player of the year is going to be Jordan McLeod because, can't give it to the guy who didn't win it. So that's what I'm going to go with there. Who do you have as your contender?
I agree with you, Texas State. I think Texas State wins the West. Again, mentioned it earlier, the kind of concern with Texas State is that defense. Can that defense play well enough to kind of get them over the hump? I'm of the inclination that they can, but I think folks have to understand, and I think the same goes for South Florida. Teams that run these high-powered spread offenses, these fast offenses, they always put their defense in a bad position, right? Because they score a lot of points and they score quickly, and so the team is on the field a lot. The defense is on the field a lot, I should say, and so I don't ever expect South Florida and Texas State to have like top 10 defenses in the G5. That's just never going to happen. But if they can get average defensive play from these defenses, you will see a big improvement in the records. And I think Texas State has done enough, brought in enough players in the transfer portal to kind of shore that defense up. And so I do think they will take a step up here in 2024.
And I think it's going to be behind that defensive line, and like you really like Ben Bell, I think
Ben Bell. Yeah, Ben Bell
for Texas State. So I think the team goes as he was tied for. He had 10 sacks last year, which was tied for 9th in the country in sacks. Maybe not a lot of people know that. Dark Horses, Justice, who do you got?
I got the Troy Trojans and the South Alabama Jaguars. Troy, folks had them ranked in the top 25. We did not. But I think maybe we're just different with our expectations because there's so much change. Everyone else is looking at last year, but I think given all the changes that they had, I think they can still make some noise here in the Sun Belt West. I think behind Texas State it's wide open, and South Alabama is another team that I think that's going to take a step up in the West as well, with whoever starts a quarterback, whether it be Gio Lopez, Bishop Davenport. I think Major Applewhite's going to have that team in contention. I don't think they're going to necessarily win the Sun Belt West, but I think Major Applewhite's going to have them in contention here in 2024. Who you got, Luke?
Well, I love that South Alabama call, but I'm going to go with somebody who's going to have the running back player of the year on their team, and that's James Madison Dukes. Ayo Adebayo is going to get running back of the year. I think James Madison is one of those dark horses, and why I like them, they lose a lot. Their team pretty much goes to Indiana. But this coaching staff that comes in, cut their teeth at the D3 level, D2 level, where you don't always get to pick who your players are. You're kind of at the mercy to what they have there, and you adapt. And I think that's what James Madison is going to do. They're going to adapt to what they have. What they have is a good offensive line coming back. What they have is George Pettaway, transfer from UNC. You've got Ayo Adebayo. I think he was a 1,000-yard rusher at North Texas, or really close to it. Like he ran really well there. They like him. I think you represent him at media days. At least he talks to the media a lot. I think that they run the ball. And I think James Madison is that dark horse. That's going. Go ahead.
Before we get to our week 0 preview, just wanted to, Billy's kind of shocked I didn't pick ODU. I tend when I pick things like this, I tend to shy away from my favorites just because I don't want my own heart's desire to kind of get in the way. And so, ODU has a brutal out of conference schedule. They play East Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia Tech, Bowling Green. And folks have Bowling Green. Luke and I didn't have Bowling Green, but other folks have Bowling Green in this top 25 G5 only poll. And so that is a brutal out of conference schedule, right? You're playing two Power 5 schools. East Carolina's improved, Bowling Green's improved, and then you got that Sun Belt East schedule. And while I do believe that Old Dominion as a whole, from a team, that they will be improved over what they were last year, I am not sure that the record will reflect the actual improvement, because the schedule is just so brutal. They made a bowl game a year ago. I don't not to bring up my own PTSD, but they blew a 28-point lead in the famous Toastery Bowl, and I got to witness that in person. But man, like I for one will be ecstatic if they make a bowl game again this year. I think the fan base, wants to see 7 wins. we haven't had a winning season at Old Dominion in a long time. But the realist in me just says, man, the schedule is so tough. The team, I think, will be better. I just don't know that the schedule is going to reflect that. And so I just can't, in good conscience, kind of pick ODU to win the Sun Belt East. Absolutely, am I wishing and hoping, and do I want it to happen? 100%, Billy. But I don't know. I just don't feel like it's going to happen this year. But I do think the team will be improved here in 2024.
All right, let's get into our week 0 preview for our G5 games. So we've got Montana State versus New Mexico. This is our first look at the new look Lobos, Bronco Mendenhall, and Vince Young himself, Devin Dampier. If you didn't catch that, go back and check the G5 Hive Worker Bee series. That will definitely be a clip that gets done. But what are your thoughts there, Montana State versus New Mexico?
Man, I'm really excited to kind of see. New Mexico has been one of the toughest places to get any kind of information out. We interviewed the Pit Press. They got media credentials, and he talked about it in that Worker Bee interview. I mean, we just released that, I don't know, like 2 weeks ago, and he talked about how hard it is to get information. It's just kind of like it's like Fort Knox. And so
I believe it's the Death Star.
the Death Star. That's right. That's what he said. This is the Death Star. And so this is going to be our first look at the plans of the Death Star. And so definitely kind of excited to see what Devin Dampier can do. And you and I are both high on Devin Dampier. I think the key for New Mexico this season is going to be the offensive line, right? They lost every single starter from a year ago. They brought in a ton of transfers on that offensive line, and it's how that offensive line plays is going to dictate how I think New Mexico plays. They have some talent at the skill positions. In addition to Dampier, they got Eli Sanders at running back, Luke Wysong and Medford there at wide receiver. And then at tight end, I think it's Trace Bruckler. And so I think they have the pieces there on offense. It's going to be that offensive line. Can the offensive line hold up? And this is a great warm-up game, right? Montana State is no slouch in the FCS. And so I think this will be a great indication of what's to come for New Mexico here in 2024, and see how that offensive line can perform against one of the best teams in the FCS in Montana State.
So Montana State is a favorite, I think, by a touchdown and a half at New Mexico. Yeah. I think I'm actually, I think I'm going to take the points in New Mexico to cover. But I'm going to take Montana State over New Mexico in week 0. What about you, Justice?
Oh man, it's a tough one. I think I'd probably pick New Mexico to cover. I don't know that they're going to win, but
okay.
I don't know.
So along the same lines as me, I
think,
got some news.
Okay.
This just broke. Washington State, and ours Washington State G5. We didn't interview them. They don't think they're G5. They play Mountain West scheduled. Washington State has named John Mateer as their starting quarterback for the 2024 season. So I know a lot of people were worried about that, curious about that. That comes out, moments ago.
Yeah, it's again, like New Mexico, Washington State, and Oregon State are kind of like two weird ones, right? And we didn't really know how to approach it this year. Our personal opinion is they are G5, but I think if you ask them and their fan bases, they will vehemently disagree with us. It'll sort itself out over the next 2 years. They have 2 years to kind of try and fix the Pac-12, but even if they fix the Pac-12, it doesn't mean that they're going to be a power conference. My prediction is it's going to be G5 no matter what they do. But we'll kind of let that play out. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I think that's kind of what most folks expected. By all accounts, neither quarterback has really been great per se. I guess maybe Mateer has had some great days, whereas maybe Eckhouse has just kind of been had some okay or good days. But they both had times where they both looked really bad based on practice reports. And so, as my good friend Chris K often says, it might be a case of who is the tallest midget, right? It might not be a case of of one of them playing really really well. It just kind of a who's the best bad apple, to put it in another way. But yeah,
And that was from was it the unabated news or
unabated sports or unabated college football, something like that.
Yep, so that's where I saw that come across. So get back to our week 0 preview games. G5 versus P5 matchup. SMU versus Nevada. Sounds weird, but SMU now in the ACC. How will Nevada look under new head coach Jeff Choate? Who starts at quarterback for SMU? There's rumblings about Stone might not have it. It could be Jennings. If Stone's not the quarterback, then I'm assuming that leg has not healed. If you guys remember, he broke his leg last year. I broke my leg more towards the ankle like a couple years ago. It's grueling. Also, like, I work an actual job. I'm not like a college student where I can just be in the rehab room a lot and doing it. So that's a little bit different. Plus, it's a little bit easier to rehab when you're younger. But we talked about it earlier. I think SMU goes and beats Nevada here in week 0. Justice, what are your thoughts about the powerhouse at the ACC SMU?
I'll give you my thoughts. If you don't know, can you look up and see what that spread is? My guess is it's got to be like 20 some points in favor of SMU. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a weird situation. Like, I think most folks just assume it's going to be Preston Stone. It's a broken leg. It's not an ACL. You would assume that it's fully healed. But word out of camp is that I guess it's kind of been a battle between him and Kevin Jennings. Kevin Jennings is who started for SMU while Delaware, or while Preston Stone was out. He kind of started the last 2 games of the year. Looked good, looked okay in those games, but still just interesting to see that it's a battle between Preston Stone and Jennings. And like Luke said, it makes you wonder, is Preston Stone back 100% healthy?
27.5.
Yeah. Yep. Hollywood got us too. Thanks, Hollywood. Hollywood said where he looks at minus 27. That's a lot of points, man. I mean, I do think that assuming a healthy Preston Stone, the SMU covers, but that's a lot of points to give up. I think it's going to take some time for Jeff Choate to kind of get Nevada turned around. But yeah, that's a lot of points to give. I personally just wouldn't play it at all.
Yeah, I think they'll cover. I think SMU can cover. I mean, it's tough going to Nevada, but I think they can do it. Our last one is Delaware State versus Hawaii. We are excited to see the improvements for the Hawaii run and shoot offense under Timmy Chang. How does this O-line look? Are they able to get the running game going, something that they weren't able to do a lot last year? Who steps up along Pofele Ashlock with Stephen McBride out? There's a lot of questions, but more side on the Hawaii side. And my answer is Hawaii wins. I just want to know, do we have that 2007 type offense back where we're throwing for 66 touchdowns or whatever it was, 72? I don't remember. It was a lot. What do you think, Justice?
Is there even a spread on this game? There might not be, with it being an FCS opponent. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, I think how this offense is going to go is really going to be dictated by the offensive line play. We've seen the last, especially 2 years ago, the offensive line play at Hawaii was dreadful. A little better a year ago. Can it be better this year? I hope so, man. Like, year 3 under Timmy Chang here, kind of year 2 of on the run and shoot. And yeah, Braden Shager, Pofele Ashlock. The question is, who's going to step up alongside him? According to the depth chart they released today, mild surprise. Luke and I had talked with Brian McGinnis, and he gave us some names to watch out for, I guess, at wide receiver after McBride. But that wasn't he wasn't on top of the depth chart there. Alex Perry, who Brian also talked about, was Brian's breakout player of the year.
Yep.
When we interviewed him back in January now, right? Early February it was, right after Hawaii spring practice. Alex Perry is one of the starters. He looks to be the kind of the guy that's starting in the Stephen McBride role. Jonah Pinoque is the other outside receiver there, kind of joining Ashlock, who's in the slot. So yeah, I'm really excited to kind of see, like, again, like you said, what this offense looks like here in 2024 with this run and shoot. Can we get back to those Timmy Chang like passing numbers with Braden Shager and the receivers there?
All right.
Looks like Hollywood says that the spread was 38.
I found 38.5.
So yeah, that's a big number. I think Hawaii can do it. It's at Hawaii. Yeah, absolutely. Hawaii can cover. Again, it's a huge spread. I'm probably not betting on it, but if I had to, I'm going to pick Hawaii. And Billy mentions that Delaware is moving up. Yep, they are. They're playing Hawaii's playing Delaware State, but the Delaware Blue Hens are moving up to the FBS next year, joining the Conference USA along with the Missouri State Bears. Is that right, Luke? I think those are the two that are moving up, Missouri State and Delaware, moving up to join Conference USA. And yeah, absolutely, Billy. You gotta love a team named the Blue Hens. They wear helmets like Michigan, except their color isn't like a navy blue or a maize blue, as Michigan would call it. It's more of like a royal blue, but they wear those winged helmets just like Michigan. Delaware has a great history in the FBS. I got to see them play Old Dominion many times, and Joe Flacco's from Delaware, so I'm excited to kind of see Delaware moving up from the CAA to Conference USA and to the FBS, and I'm looking forward maybe to some possible matchups against Old Dominion in the future. Now that they are in the FBS, make for a short road trip between Norfolk and Delaware. So definitely looking forward to Delaware moving up to Conference USA there in 2025.
Well, we went a little bit long today. Again, we're going to try to keep it to right around an hour when we get in season. But we came back. We had a strong off season. Lots of people really enjoyed, that Worker Bee series. That was grueling. There was a lot. I tell you, scheduling all of those with the time zones, Justice being on the East Coast, I'm in the Central. Depending on where they're at, like that was something.
Yeah, we were up to 2 a.m. for me one time recording.
We went through the gambit and we did it, to give you guys more information. We appreciate the support that we got over here in the offseason. 2024 is coming on. Come back and join us next week as we discuss what happened in week 0. And we look forward to a full slate of G5 games for week 1 in 2024 season. And as always, bring you up to date on all the latest news and the happenings in the worlds of the G5 college football. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. If you're watching us on X, please give us a follow, a like, a retweet. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, please subscribe. Leave those 5-star ratings and review. Thank you all for your support. Until the next time, we are the G5 Hive.
Before we get out, I just want to shout out Hollywood, Billy Tuesday. Thanks you guys for your support. Kendricks, thanks everyone for the comments, right? We love it. We look forward to interacting with you guys each and every week. You have any questions, if you can't make it to the show, shoot us a DM, right? DM us on Twitter, either our personal accounts, the G5 Hive account. Be glad to talk about your questions on air. And like Luke said, thank you all for your support, and we'll see you next week.
Go!